right. Thank you, everybody, so much for joining us here today on the Pulsebeat, sponsored by Cardio Miracle. We are so excited to have our guest today. I'm going to go ahead and introduce him. Today's guest is Frank Ring, an educator, author, fitness coach, and mindset mentor who's dedicated his life to helping people move better, feel stronger, and live healthier through the power of walking. After overcoming serious back injuries and later prostate cancer diagnosis, Frank turned to personal setbacks into purpose. He developed a strong through prostate cancer method to help men stay physically and mentally strong during treatment and rebuild confidence afterwards. Frank is the founder of Walking for Health and Fitness and the author of several best-selling books, including Walking for Health and Fitness and Fitness Walking and Body Weight Exercises. His work has inspired thousands to make movement simple, sustainable, and enjoyable. He's also known for completing an incredible 11,285-mile virtual walk through the entire perimeter of the United States, proving that consistency truly changes lives. Through his podcast, coaching, and programs, Frank shows that walking is more than exercise. It's a gateway to clarity, confidence, and lifelong wellness. Please welcome Frank Ring. How you doing today, Frank?
Well, I'm great, Josh. I think we could stop the interview right there. Thank you for that introduction. Wow.
Yeah, it's like we just cut it. No, it'd be great. No, man, Frank, I'm so excited to have you, man, because I didn't even tell you this off air, but I've lost 200 pounds through walking, man. I mean, it's nothing like 11,000, but I do 9,000. I did 9,625,000 or 9,625,000 steps last year, actually.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Awesome. Fantastic. Yeah, it's great for losing weight. It's the consistency and what you said in the introduction that is so vital for us to keep our bodies moving day after day. And you don't have to walk around the perimeter of the United States, but if you every day get out just to get into the habit of just a walk after a meal, after lunch, after dinner, after breakfast, those steps add up. Even the steps you walk around your house to do housework, they add up. It's just movement in general that keeps the body fit.
I'll tell you what, I get on my, I put on my headphones and do calls every day. And I've just told all the contractors that I work with and the people that I work with in general, I'm like, hey, if you're not okay with cars passing me and, things happening outside and the elements, like we're going to have to get used to it because I'm always walking. I'm always pacing. Yesterday I got 32,000 steps. So I was just a pacer, man. So it's really cool.
I'll tell you an interesting story. So I'm a high school teacher. In the morning, I'd get down before school and I'd walk laps around my track. That's what I did. So many people, colleagues who saw me would say, wow, that's great. I should come join you. No one ever joined.
No one
ever joined me. So I'm in my class one day and the guidance counselor comes down, my friend Nelson, and he'd probably been there about a year. And he said, hey, I hear you're the walking guy. Tell me about it. So I tell him what I do. I've written the books and this and that. He says, I need to lose weight. So at the time he was getting into his mid-30s, he said, I always used to go out to the track and do sprints because he was a sprinter in high school. He said, now I find I'm getting hurt all the time. And I said, okay, just start walking. Forget about the hard effort. I mean, we're always taught no pain, no gain. As we get older, that doesn't make sense. It's just crazy. And so that's what he started doing. And I would see him in the hall. I'm like, you're starting to lose weight. I could see it. Calls me up to his office one day, and under his desk, he had one of those treadmills, one of those little standing treadmills, totally hooked on it. And he's maintained the weight loss, and he looks in great shape, and he's been injury free. So there's a huge power to walking, and especially as early as our early 30s. The hard workouts have their place, but as we get older, I've been hurt so many times from doing everything but walking. So that's why I got into walking, with the back injury that had happened.
Yeah. In a couple of my podcasts, I tell people that a lot of people sleep on walking because it's, I was 480 pounds, and in 2021 I decided decided that I took a walk of shame is what I call it. So I was going to get a CPAP test, and the clinic couldn't read my weight, so I had to walk across the street to weigh myself on a pallet scale
Oh, wow.
at a warehouse. And
Mm.
I'm like, I gotta do something. And then during my CPAP test, the nurse came in 4 times to turn up the oxygen. He's like, "You're still dipping below 40% oxygen." So he's
Wow.
like, "I thought you were gonna die on my table, man." He's like, "You need to do something about this way." So I
Yeah.
started walking, just walking, because my knees, high school football injuries and college football injuries, and I used to be a strongman competitor, so I'd lift cars and flip telephone poles and just let it get out of hand. But I'm telling
Mhm.
you what, walking has been such a therapeutic thing for me. So I know that's not really what you're focusing on these days, but I just
Well,
love that you're so accomplished.
that actually, that is a huge part of what it's all encompassing with what I'm focusing on now with the prostate cancer treatment. But the walking, you said it right there. You really, at that point, you couldn't do anything else, right? And
You're
it
right.
came down, and think of all the injuries you had doing those other sports. And when we're younger, because that's what we do, we'll run through a wall to compete. But I was a cross country coach for years, and one of the coaches on another team, I didn't know him well, but he was before he became the cross country coach, he was a very successful football coach. And then as he got older, he gave that up, went over to cross country, and he was a runner. He had started running himself. And he said, I always taught my guys, like, football, no pain, no gain. He said, now that I'm running, he goes, I realize how foolish that is because I'm in pain all the time. So, it's, I think the earlier we should all start walking, the better. The better off our health will be.
For sure, man, for sure. And so what can you kind of explain what you're focusing on these days with prostate?
Sure, sure. So, I was diagnosed last March of 2025, prostate cancer. I My course of treatment I decided on was to do ADT, androgen deprivation therapy, which cuts your testosterone, stops the tumors from growing, and then after they stabilize you there, you do radiation. I did 28 treatments of radiation. So as I researched it, I realized, like, I looked at the radiation. I didn't think it would be the radiation part didn't worry me at all. They'd been doing it for years. They had it really down. What worried me was the ADT, what that was going to do to my body. Weight gain, muscle loss. Well, think about it. You have no testosterone. And so I said, okay, I had a game plan going into treatment. My ADT shot was May 28th. May 27th, I was at my field, like my track at the high school. I did my usual 4 laps before school, but I stopped every half lap to do push-ups. So I said, all right, let me have a baseline going into this. And I was doing 8 sets of 50, so 400 push-ups. And what I was worried about with the ADT was the loss of muscle and all of this. And so I get the shot, and immediately I felt, and then I had written out exactly what I was going to do each day. As far as not like day by day, but I want to focus on my fitness, nutrition. I want to focus on my mindset. And I'm telling you, within like 2 weeks, that whole plan just went out the window because of how I just felt off. It's the only way I can explain it. And anything I did physically, even walking up my driveway, my body would get this. I only call it a buzz. If you've ever worked out really hard, let's say you had to do yard work one day. How many people? We don't really do yard work all the time. So you get
Right.
out for that big spring cleanup, and at the end of the day, your body feels buzzing. I mean, I felt like that just walking up the driveway. So something had changed dramatically, and I call it, and what I realized, I called it the fog of war, in that there are so many things that I knew were good for me, and I just couldn't put it together. It was really strange. Like some days I'd get out and walk, and other days I'm like, I just don't have it, and I'd get down on myself. She wasn't really feeling good. Started putting the weight on because now I'm not walking as much. I had never really been someone who had a huge appetite. To me, food was just, all right, I just need to eat to sustain myself. Now, all of a sudden, I was like, I couldn't stop eating. So it had really made a huge change in my body. I got through the radiation treatments by the end of October. So that ADT was in my system for about well, it's technically still in my system, but that 5 months, early on, I came to the realization that, you know what, I had this plan. I don't know what the hell is going on. I'm just going to get through this. Let me get through it. When I'm done with the treatment, then I'll deal with the consequences of what I've gone through. So I got through the radiation. First 2 weeks, same thing. I just wasn't feeling right. The only way I can put it. My girlfriend suggests we join a yoga studio. And I'm like, you know what? I think I need that. Maybe just some breathing. And, you know, I thought yoga was more of like Om and, a little
Yeah.
stretching, but we were doing some fitness yoga. So it really taxed me. And I realized that that was what I needed, that had helped me to start to feel better.
Mm.
The stretching, the breathing, the consistency. We were going about 5 times a week. And then I was out on a walk and I thought, I went through this thing. I'm still, the symptoms of it and the effects of it are still in my system. What would I do differently now that I'm starting to feel better? I can think a little bit more clearly. And I just started making notes every few days of like, hey, if I had to do this again, I would do this. I would do this. I would do this. And as I started to look at what I had, I'm like, maybe other men need this. Because when I was in my doctor's office, when the ADT started and then the radiation started, I was given a sheet of paper. Hey, here's some diet suggestions and, here's some exercise suggestions. That's it. And I realized looking back that my medical team, awesome. They were on top of everything. They really knew what they were doing and they treated the disease. Right now, my blood work came back. My PSA level is less than zero point 0.1. So they did their job as far as curing my cancer. But there was a lot of the mindset stuff that was just not there. There was no, and they suggested. I didn't even suggest joining a support group. It was just like, here, here's this piece of paper, diet, and do some exercise. So I thought, I could probably do a much better job helping men who are going through this themselves. And so that's what I've been focusing on now.
That's amazing. I love it. And what are some of the biggest, like, I don't know, I don't want to say like red flags, but what are some of the biggest signs to like someone with the whole prostate issue?
Oh, okay. So, all right, so prior to the diagnosis, some of the signs are, uh, frequent urination. That's caused by the BPH, enlarged prostate. There are some sexual issues come up, but basically, what men should do, if any man listening to this, get your PSA level checked. You go to the physical, get a physical exam, you get your blood work done, have them do a PSA test because that's the first indicator that you could track that year by year, and that's what I did. So my first PSA level was probably like 1.0. My dad had prostate cancer, so I was checking my PSA from when I was in my 40s.
Oh, okay.
And slowly, and every year it came back good, came back good, came back good. Mid 50s, all of a sudden it started jumping up. Oh, it went up a little bit. Okay, no worries yet. It went up a little bit. Next year, no worries yet. Went up a little bit. We should look at this. I think it was at like a 3.2. And then it just every year. And then I'd say, hey, I'm under a lot of stress. What's going on in my life? I'll watch my diet. I'll exercise more. And it would come down. So I was able to, kind of keep it under control. At least that's how I felt. And then finally it got to the point where it went up. And then the following year it went up. And my doctor said, look, let's just do an MRI. Let's see what's going on. So they did the MRI. And then he said, hey, let's schedule a biopsy. We see something. So, when you get to biopsy, if they're scheduling a biopsy, there's most likely something happening.
Pretty much
And
no, yeah.
the crazy. So here's what happened with the crazy story of this is. So I get the biopsy. A week later, I happen to be in my general doctor's office for a physical. And I said, I didn't hear from my doctor yet. Let me just check the portal. Maybe I missed something. And sure enough, it's there. And there it is. There's the the word, there's cancer. And I am like sitting there in the waiting room, kind of like freaking out. So what do? I put it into ChatGPT. Hey, what am I looking at here? Put the report in, amazing. And it came back, yeah, suggestions, guidelines. My prostate level, the PSA was up. What the biopsy showed what are called the Gleason score. And in a sense, it's now like the next level of diagnosis. So mine was a 7. Gleason is made up of 2 numbers. I had some 4.3s, which is worse than 3.4s. 3.4s is a little bit better than 4.3. So now I'm freaking out about that. And I went into my doctor and she said, "How are you?" I said, "Not good. I'm like, freaking out here.
Sure.
Got cancer." So she looked at it and she's great. And she just went through it. She actually took my phone, looked at what ChatGPT said
Yeah.
and said, she just reassured me. She said, "Look, you've got cancer, but you'll get it taken care of and you're going to live a long life." And I thought, okay, I like to hear that. That's really good.
Sure.
But hearing that and then also having experienced a history of cancer, not me, but in my family, it kind of was unsettling. So I talk about this. That movie Brian Song. Had you ever seen that movie Brian Song from 1971? It's an
I
old.
didn't.
Okay, so there's a football player Brian Piccolo in the 60s. He was roommates with Gail Sayers. Now, I'm watching this movie at 8 years old. I think it's a football movie, right?
Yeah.
What it was a social commentary because they were roommates. A black man and a white man in the 60s was a big deal.
Right.
So at the time, at 8 years old, I didn't realize that. But Brian Piccolo dies of cancer. Gail Sayers gives this emotional speech, and I'm 8 years old, like crying my eyes out. So, and I'm like, what the hell's going? Like, I had no idea. Like, I'm feeling this emotion for this, football player. But then I thought, well, wait, this football player is big, strong guys, and this guy's brought down by cancer. My uncle died a year later of cancer, and then as we get older, we always know somebody who has a cancer diagnosis. My mom died of pancreatic cancer. So even though she had reassured me, the reality of what my history was, this could be really serious.
Yeah.
And so that's, I think, part of what threw me off. And going through like the fog of war, that confusion I talked about when I was in it, that's also what led me to, I think I could help other men get through this without that, having someone to talk to. Get on a call and let's get you regulated. Walking is a big part of that. I mean, I think in every recovery program, whether it's physical, emotional recovery, we need to get the emotions down first. Walking helps do that before the recovery can start taking place or as the recovery is taking.
Sure. And so is there, like with this hereditary type of thing in your family, are there things that you can do to prevent? Did you find any of that out by
Yeah.
chance?
So there's, as far as prostate cancer, there's nothing you can do to prevent it. Same thing. My mom died of pancreatic cancer. So nothing. Healthy living gives you a better shot. It's
Yeah.
really it.
Okay.
What I've researched on prostate cancer was that nothing I did beforehand affected it. There are guys who are absolutely clean living and they develop prostate cancer. There are guys who have the worst diets and the worst diet habits and they don't get prostate cancer. It's a kind of a crapshoot. But as we get older, that PSA level comes up and most men will face some kind of prostate issue. But the important thing is what you do after, like what I'm doing now after prostate cancer is important. Diet, exercise, clean living. That is important for it to not reoccur.
How long of a process has that been for you? How many years have you been doing that now?
Well, the prostate cancer, my treatment just ended last October.
Wow.
So I'm really like right. I'm still feeling the effects of the ADT. In fact, next month I have an exam to see if my testosterone level has started coming up. Uh, but prior to that, I mean, I really did live a pretty healthy lifestyle with all the walking I did,
That's
and
what I was gonna
and
ask.
and
Yeah.
and I was, I'm not a big, never been a big drinker. Dietary wise, I mean, my weight had been steady for years. I mean, I was in the 170s probably for 15 years.
Wow.
As soon as it got up to 175, I'd say, hey, let me cut back here, cut back there. Once I had the ADT and my weight jumped up, I gained 17 pounds. So I went from 171 the morning of the shot to, I would say 3 months later, less than 3 months later, I was up to 180, 188, which really like, what the hell is going on
Yeah,
here? You know, so,
I bet, man.
so what my focus is with my strong program, strong through prostate cancer, is to help men avoid that. Okay. Because I feel, one, physically, I felt lousy, emotionally, I felt lousy, but I've also lost time because now I'm kind of I'm trying to catch up again, or I'm putting things in place now that had I had in place back in May and June when all this started, I would be so much more ahead of where I am now. So it's a time factor, money factor. If you're working, you need to be on top of your game. So uh,
Yeah,
that's where I'm going towards now.
that's amazing. And can you give us a little teaser on the whole strong program?
Yeah, sure. So strong, it's an acronym because I thought I always like that. I have an acronym for my walking, so I said, oh, let me try this again, and strong came up. So it's really weird, but it's things that just started working on. Like, so the first one is S, set your mindset every morning. During, actually, when I wrote out in my notebook prior to the shot, that was one of the things. Hey, I need to get up every morning. I need to start doing some reading for my mindset. And I didn't do it. It just didn't. So after it started, that's what I started doing. First thing I did was a gratitude journal. And I had this book on my shelf for 2 years. And for 2 years, I didn't pick it up. 2 days after treatment, I'm like, I think I need to start doing this. And so that became part of it. My reading for a positive mindset, started reading men's devotional scripture reading, which really something I'd never done before. Again, another book that was probably on my shelf for 3 years.
Yeah.
And so that, I'm like, that would be a really good starting point for anyone just to start the day, on a good note. Set your intention for the day. The T stands for train your body. Walking, huge part of it. The training, what I did initially was I started working out with weights and I went heavy right away. I hadn't, I wrote a book, Fitness Walking and Body Weight Exercises. Okay, body weight, not dumbbell,
Yeah.
not barbell exercise. And I
Yeah,
got
yeah.
away from that. And I hurt my shoulder. So now I'm putting weight on. I'm not walking as much. I don't feel as good. And now I can't even do exercises because my shoulder hurt, doing something that I pretty much preach against doing. So, like, again, that was that fog of war, really just like, what the hell am I thinking here? So train your body with walking and strength. It could as simple as body weight exercises. Really, that's it. And I say simple, but that's really misnomer because they're so good for you. The R, refuel intelligently, eating properly, addressing gut health issues, which is so, they're doing more and more research about that and links to cancer. So that's a huge part of it. The O, optimize rest and recovery. During the treatment, I was napping on the couch while watching television. And finally, one day, my girlfriend said, hey, get up, go to bed, and take like a proper nap in the middle of the day, which is the thing I needed. But that goes back to our mindset as men, no pain, no gain. We got to push through this. I'm stronger than this thing. And I realized, no, I'm not. I needed to step back. Recovery is a huge part of it. And then N of strong is navigate the mental battle because it is a mental battle. Having someone to talk to, really important. And then the G is grow into the man you're becoming, the new man, because you're not the same person after cancer as before cancer. When I got that diagnosis, I'm at 62 years old, and I'm thinking, wait a minute, I've got cancer. Do I have only a limited number of years? That became a real concern. And I said, I'm going to come out of this at some point. And actually, this was more of a thought after the recovery, because like I said, during it, I was in that fog. But after, I'm like, I want this to mean something. I don't want to just come out of this I want to come out and live a long life, but I could do something with this. I've been an educator for 27 years, and I thought that's what I want to do. I want to help other people. And if I help other men get through their battle, I think that would be something that I find a lot of enjoyment in and something that's fulfilling.
Heck yeah. That's amazing, man. Yeah, I'm gonna take just a short sponsor break here. So Cardio Miracle is our podcast sponsor of the Pulsebeat, and what we have in Cardio Miracle is goes along with a lot of what you're saying. With we have 58 whole and organic fruits and vegetables in here. It's something that is a powder you put into water, you shake it up, drink it every day, and it creates nitric oxide, which is a gas that I'm sure you know about. um, it sustains it in our body, in our blood for 24 hours a day. And so we're so grateful to have them as a sponsor and to be able to do podcasts like this so that we can get good messages out in the world like the one that you have with the strong method. It sounds amazing, man. So I love that.
Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate that.
Definitely, definitely. And so if there was like one big thing that you could tell anybody or everybody, like in addition to getting their PSA checked, what would be that big message?
Oh, get the body moving. Get your body moving. And again, just a simple, you don't have to walk around the country, but you, and if you want to hear that story, that was really, it's
I
a
want
funny,
to hear it. I
it
was going to ask
actually,
this the next
it's
one. Yeah.
actually, if I laugh every time I've thought about it. But the message is to just get moving. You finish your meal, just go walk around the block
Yeah.
because one, the physical part is great, the movement. But, and I would, how did you feel when you started walking? How did you feel mentally when you started walking? I'm
Man,
curious about that.
yeah, that's when I started, I literally felt like I had this huge road to go down. I did a couple walks of shame. I was kicked off of a flight because the I couldn't even buckle the extender, so they told me to leave. I got kicked off Space Mountain in Disneyland because I couldn't
Wow.
get the bar down.
Mm,
And then I walked across the street to an abandoned warehouse where they had a pallet scale. And I'm in a
wow.
gown, and it was just like once I got out of that CPAP test, and I had to go rent two additional oxygen tanks to hook up to my CPAP machine so that I could get enough oxygen while I was sleeping so I wouldn't die. And so I started walking, and my first day I was like, I'm just gonna walk. I have a family property where it was like we have our cabin, and then we have a fence that's about yeah, two football field lengths. It's at
Mhm.
200 yards.
Yeah.
And so I walked to the fence, and I was like, I feel good. I'm gonna keep going. So I kept going. And then it's just now it's become a healthy obsession is
Mm.
what I
Yeah.
call it. And
Yeah.
so every day, I mean, this morning, before 9 o'clock, I got in 15,000 steps, man. So
Beautiful.
I'm kind of I'm kind of obsessive about it, but I need to hear about your walk around the world, man. It's
Well,
unbelievable.
it was so here's how it started. I'm a high school teacher. I teach in the computer lab. I teach a Photoshop class. It's one of my favorite classes to teach because it's such a complex program initially. The learning curve is sharp, but I love it when my students get it. I always love that part of teaching. So I thought, let me have some fun with this. I had read an article about these guys who ran across the country. Okay. And they had their whole thing, and it was a blog, and this was in the early 2000s. Kind of was like, even though I was in the computer lab, like blogging, that was new to me. I never even know what that was.
Yeah.
I read it. I was fascinated. Like every day, I'd read their account. So I thought, would I do that? Would I run across the country if I had a chance? Because I was a runner at that point. I was coaching cross country. I ran to like 20 miles a week. I wasn't a huge runner. Every time I tried to train for a marathon, I wanted to run a marathon, I'd get hurt. So I said I would never run across the country, but I have these running logs. What does it mean to go 20 miles? Well, from my house where I was living to my work in Palisades Park, New Jersey, was 20 miles. I'm like, all right, what's beyond that? And I looked at the next town, the next town. So I'm like, well, what if I put my miles on a map? I'll put it up in my classroom, but I'll Photoshop myself in different pictures as if I'm actually running. So it was a way for me to improve my Photoshop skills. I had just started teaching it, and I could goof on the kids, right? Because they'll look up and say, "What are you doing?" And that's exactly what it became. The kids would be like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "Is that me running?" They're like, "Yeah." I said, "Well, I'm running to Florida." At the time, I was only going to go to Florida. Key West is the end of Route 1. Route 1 runs through Palisades Park, where I grew up and where I teach. all the way down. And my grandfather always tell me a story when, I think in the 50s, he had taken a trip to, to Florida via Route 1 because the New Jersey Turnpike and 95 wasn't complete. So I thought, okay, I'll do this virtually and just goof. So I found pictures of just like, welcome to North Carolina. And there's me in my running pose. And there'd be people waving, and my students would be like, where are you? I'm like, oh, I met these people along the way, the nicest people. We went out to dinner. Like, I just had all these crazy stories. So eventually I wound up circumnavigating the perimeter of the United States. It was over 11,000 miles.
Wow.
Here's the, I just loved goofing on the kids, and I always have a good time telling the story. The most frustrating thing. So it was September of 2019. And one of my students, Dominic, a really great kid, he says, hey, Mr. Ring, you're going to finish this thing by the time I graduate. He's a senior, he's going to graduate in June. And I did the calculations, and I thought, all right, if I do 100 miles a month, I got it. So that's what I planned. I said, Dominic, when I do this, said the George Washington Bridge is actually Route 1 comes over the George Washington Bridge, 3 miles or 4 miles from Palisades Park High School. If I walk the last route of this virtual run on the actual route, will you walk it with me? And I get a whole bunch of other people. And he's like, yeah, great. And then in March of 2020, COVID happens, school shut down. So I walked a lot during COVID, but I wasn't keeping track of my miles because that was just a depressing time.
Yeah.
And about middle of July of that year, I'm like, where am I on this virtual walk thing? And I would have finished right in time for them to graduate. But I didn't even know it at the time because I was so disgusted with what was going on with COVID.
Yeah.
So it was kind of this 16-year journey was kind of a letdown at the end that I couldn't do my big dramatic, let's walk together from the George Washington Bridge to Palisades Park High School. But what that taught me is just consistency. There would be days I'd be at my house, it's wintertime now, it's cold here, but I would be like, hey, let me go get another 3 or 4 miles on my journey. 3 or 4 miles. And that was my overriding goal through that was, hey, if this gets me out the door, that's a great deal. And it did when I was a runner. It was what I found interesting. So I'd hurt my back in 2016 running. I'd herniated a disc. Just the accumulation of all the miles. And I was doing trail running, which is really jarring on the body. So when I started walking with the idea of just let me get back in shape by walking, then I'll start running again. And once I got out walking, I'm like, hey, I really enjoy this. I'm listening to podcasts. I'm listening to music. I never did that when I ran. I'm like, this is really, I felt that my body was starting to feel better, but my mindset felt so much better. I felt so much clearer about things. And that's when I thought, well, let me turn, lemons into lemonade as far as I'm recovering from this back injury, but let me start doing something with walking. And that's when I started my website, Walking for Health and Fitness. And I said, well, let me write a book of the same name. And the book was the book that I was looking for. Because when I look at walking books, I go to the bookstore, I'm like, there's just so much information that I thought was in the weeds, like, wait, page 4, why are they telling me about this when I really need to get right down to it? So I wrote the book that I would have wanted to buy, and that was Walking for Health and Fitness.
That's amazing, man. And how well are your books doing with the walking books?
Oh, the walking books, they do all right. I mean, I'm not getting rich from walking
Well, no,
books.
I mean, my brother wrote a book and said no, very few get rich from writing books. So.
No, that's it. Unless I turn my walking book into a movie, but it's enough to cover some of the expenses of the website and stuff like that. But it's just the idea. So when I was, I'd be on my walks and I'd listen to different marketers. I had my website up there, and they all said, well, if you want to be taken seriously, you have to write a book. So I'm like, write a book? What am I going to write a book about? Like, how do I write a book about walking? But, I put together chapters, an outline, right? Like they teach you in school.
Yeah.
And I just plugged away just a little bit here, a little bit there. This was all pre-AI, I didn't have ChatGPT to help me.
Yeah.
And I read a book that's called, now the name escaped. How to Write a Book. So I first got that book, How to Write a Book. And the one thing that stuck with me was be careful with this process because it becomes addicting. So I'm like, I'm just trying to get through this. But the crazy thing was, I wrote the second book, Fitness, Walking, and Body Exercises, like maybe not even 3 months later, because I was on such a roll. And I'm like, I really like this. I love the process of getting home. My son was in middle school at the time, so he was busy studying all the time. So once I got home from cross country practice, I was like, hey, let me just sit down and start writing.
Yeah.
And it's been a great process. And I like that. So I've written 5 books now. And again, it's just,
Nice.
it's just
Holy,
something to do and, keep the mind going and keep my mind focused on, the health and fitness aspect that I like to.
I love it, man. Hey, tell us about your podcast.
So the podcast is surprisingly, it's called Walking for Health and Fitness.
That is a surprise.
Right? You didn't expect that, did
I
you?
love it.
So again, it was just a way of, I had been listening to podcasts. I'm like, hey, can I do that? It was more of a challenge to myself. Can
Sure.
I do this? I initially just thought, all right, what would I want to talk about on the podcast? I wrote out, I think I had like 10 different chapters or 10 different episodes. I would write about this, 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 this. So the first one is really just starting and getting out the door. And I enjoyed the writing of it. I enjoyed the recording. I enjoyed learning all of the podcasting stuff. I
Yeah.
put it out through the company Podbean, and it was just fun. And it was just me in front of the camera. Actually, it wasn't even in front of the camera. It was just the audio. And
Yeah.
then I would release the audio onto YouTube. And then at school, we had a speaker, beginning of the school year, Diane Lang. We called her the happiness woman because she wrote a book about happiness. She was a psychologist. She got burnt out and started following positive psychology. And that became her specialty. And she talked about walking in the presentation. All my friends around me are like, hey, you got to go talk to her. So afterwards, I introduced myself. I said, hey, I do a podcast. I'd interviewed one man before this. I said, but would you like to come on? And she was great. She was a great guest. So it kind of helped ease me into having guests occasionally. I find it much easier. I like to do it myself. When I have a guest, I get uptight only because I want to do such a good job for them.
Sure.
I think I put a little too much pressure on myself, but
Yeah.
but the podcast, what am I on 36 episodes, and the focus has gone from, it's still walking, but now it is health and fitness. I've talked about my prostate cancer battle, now transitioning over to what I'm doing, helping men in recovery, and then the recovery could be anything, recovering from anything, whether it's any kind of addiction, recovering from physical injury. So there's a lot of latitude I have to talk about whatever. The fitness becomes so much bigger when you're talking about subjects like that,
Oh, it's
recovery.
for sure. No, it's for sure, man. My dad started Cardio Miracle, and he started because, um, his dad's dad died from heart disease, and
Mm,
his dad died from heart disease, and so his dad and his dad's dad were really young. They're in late 50s, early 60s, and so my dad is in his he calls it his 74th year. So we're trying hard to break the trend of
mm,
dying early, from heart
mm,
disease, and
mm,
so we're really excited that we're able to assist people with the health aspect of taking their health into their own hands. And that's why Matt reached out to you, our producer, so that because we are on the same page as far as like taking your health in your own hands. And with the walking, I've noticed that if I don't make a conscious effort to get out the door and go for a walk, even while I'm on the phone or whatever.
mm.
Like I could very easily sit back in my chair and just take a call.
Yeah, yeah.
And but I mean, man, you got to get out there and just walk. So I love the aspect of taking your health in your own hands, and you're super driven, Frank. It's amazing what you've done. So,
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. As I was researching the first book, I don't know where the quote came from. I forget, was a professional athlete, and he said the hardest part of the workout is just getting to the workout. Is
yeah,
just getting out the door. And that became, one of the guiding lights of that book was to just, you got whatever you can just say, even if you say, I'm going to go out for 2 minutes,
yeah,
because if you can get out the door for you say, oh, I'm out here, let me just go.
Yeah.
And that's
Might
what
as well.
that was my mindset part when I first started walking was, oh, just get out for these 2 minutes and, and go from there. And that is the hardest part. And if we can just get into that habit of getting out for 2 minutes instead of, like you just said, sitting back and, hey,
Yeah.
I'm comfortable in the office
Yeah.
here.
That's
I've
right.
got so much work to do.
Yeah.
Can I really get out and walk? Well, it's vital that you do.
Yeah. Yeah, my brother challenged me. He said, because I used to get up every morning at 4:03 to go to the bathroom. And he goes, when you get up, I want to challenge you to get dressed, put your shoes on, lace them up, and then go to the bathroom. And then after that, decide if you want to stay up or take your shoes off and go back to bed. And so literally I would just get up and get dressed and go to the bathroom. And then I'd be like, I might as well go for a walk. So I go for a walk at 4 in the morning. And
Mm-hmm.
that's when I started to get the urge, to, to get out every morning.
Yeah, yeah.
It's awesome.
It becomes a habit. It's so funny growing up. We grew up with my grandfather, and he was up at before 5 every morning. And as a kid, I'm like, how the hell does he
Yeah.
get up? As a teenager, right, you need all this sleep. I'd be
Yeah.
sleeping till 9, 10 o'clock if I didn't have some practice or another.
Seriously.
But now, if if I don't get out of bed, if I sleep until 7, which is very rare, but every once in a while, I'll be like, "Oh, I lost a day,"
Yeah.
because
The
I
day's
like to
gone.
be
Yeah.
up like before 5. Same thing. You get up and you go to the bathroom. You're like, "Yeah, I'm up. Might as well stay up."
Yeah.
That I do that mindset work between 5 and 6, and if I
Love it.
miss that, it kind of throws me off for the day.
Yeah,
So
man.
that's
No.
a big part of being consistent, and then that leads to consistency in your fitness, consistency in your eating habits, and it just carries over everywhere.
In life, man, in life, and we win. So, Frank, it's been such a pleasure, man. If you give us 30 seconds of a message you want to just put in the box for us, I think that'd be really awesome to finish this out here.
Yeah, well, the 30-second message would be, you need to, we talked about this, you need to take control of your own health. No one's going to do it for you. So start with something as simple as getting out for a walk and develop that routine, much like your sneaker routine. Develop that thing that is going to trigger you to get out the door, that tiny little habit that is going to, make you get out for 2 minutes. That's all you have to tell yourself, 2 minutes, but you'll find it's the best 2 minutes, the best investment you can make in your own health, your own fitness, and your mindset.
Fantastic. Thank you. And where can we find you? Can we find you on social media
You
or
okay? Social media, everything is just actually Walking for Health and Fitness. Is the
okay.
website, is the podcast. I'm on social media as Walking for Health and Fitness. All of the platforms. I'm Frank Ring. I'm on Amazon, so you easily find me. The name Ring is kind of common in search engines for
Yeah,
other things, not Ring, but
sure.
slowly I'm making my way up the Google rankings when
Heck
you put
yeah,
in the
man.
word Ring, But
Yeah, for
but yeah,
sure.
so Walking for Health and Fitness is the website. There's so many resources there.
Yeah, Frank, it's been such a pleasure, man. Thanks so much for your time, and we're so excited to shoot this out to as many people as we can, and get to some visitors. And I'm excited to go look at some of your books, man. I'm gonna take a deep dive into that. So
Wonderful. Well,
yeah,
thank you, Josh. I appreciate you having me on. I really appreciate what you do. And yeah, let me know how I can promote your show, and I'll put this up on my side also.
thank you, Frank, so much, man. Have a
You got it,
wonderful
my
day.
friend. All right. Thank you.